Super excited to be here with Emily Penn, co-founder of eXXpedition. Can you just say in a nutshell for everyone, what is eXXpedition?
eXXpedition is a series of all women's sailing voyages. So we are about to set off around the world to sail for 2 years with 300 women to study plastic and toxic pollution.
Amazing. And where did this story start for you?
12 years ago, I had an opportunity to take a boat around the world. I was actually on my way to Australia to a job as an architect, and I was hitchhiking on this boat and suddenly came across plastic in the middle of the Pacific. And it completely took me by surprise, and it mostly just didn't make any sense. And so I started to learn more about the plastics issue and then started setting up projects, cleanups, research expeditions that grew and grew to then eXXpedition.
Was there a particular moment that really motivated you to start what has now become eXXpedition?
Yeah, so I spent quite a lot of time looking at these microplastics, the tiny fragments, and then we were catching fish and we were finding these microplastics inside the stomachs of these fish. And it opened up all sorts of questions for me about the potential of these plastics and other polluting chemicals in our ocean getting into the food chain, the same food chain that we're at the top of. And so when I then decided to test my blood for chemicals that we were finding in the ocean and in the fish, I tested for 35 chemicals that are banned because they're toxic to humans. And we found 29 of these 35 chemicals in my blood.
Wow.
So that was the moment.
Okay.
The moment when I thought, we have so many unanswered questions about this issue of microplastics, toxics, health. We need some answers. And so we set up eXXpedition to try and find out.
Amazing. You opened today saying we help make the unseen seen, and that has multiple different meanings, both in terms of women in science and of course microplastics. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah, it began all about the microplastics and then the toxics that we were finding. And then when we decided to bring this all women's team together, partly because of the impact on female health that we were beginning to understand, we then realised, women in science, women in exploration, women in sport and sailing, there's all these careers that typically, women aren't at the forefront of. There aren't that many role models, and that's something that we also wanted to change.
What are some of the challenges, though, of having, I suppose, a group of women or any group of people together on a boat, a tiny boat, in the ocean for many weeks at a time?
Seasickness is probably the number one challenge that most people face when they get on board. Particularly the location of the gyres means we often have to sail upwind to get there.
And just, do you want to explain what gyres are?
Just
for people who don't know?
Yeah, so the gyre is what we call an accumulation zone. So due to this rotating system of currents and winds, that's where all the plastic in our ocean eventually ends up. And they could be 1,000 miles wide. They are thought of as islands, but that's actually a myth. They are a soup.
Whoa.
Fine fragments of plastic that cover that surface of the ocean for miles and miles and miles.
And so you have to sail upwind to get to these gyres.
Exactly.
Whoa, and that really brings on people's...
Yeah, it means you're going into the waves and your sails are pulled all the way in, which means the boat's tipped over a bit more. So it's very challenging. You're living at 45 degrees and you're trying to get used to, your floor being like this, and then waves coming over the boat, and that's usually enough to get everybody heading with their head over the side for a little bit.
And how have you dealt with that as a leader?
Trying to keep morale high, trying to keep everybody focused on the bigger picture. The seasickness is just something that happens for the first few days. I think overall, trying to sort of stop there being any issues on the boat or any different personalities rubbing up against each other. The main way I do it is keeping everyone really busy. And so on board, there's a full schedule. We're divided into 3 watch teams, so you're on deck for 1 watch and then off for 2, and each watch is about 4 hours long. And then even when you're off watch, you're doing scientific work, you're looking down the microscope, separating samples, you're using the FTIR machine to work out which polymer it is, you're writing a blog, you're editing your photographs, you're cooking dinner, you're cleaning the heads, you know, and there's this sort of schedule for every day, and everyone knows what they need to be doing when. And when that happens, everybody feels part of the team. They feel like they're all needed, because they are. Every role has to be filled and every job has to get done. And that is an amazing work environment. And everyone just kind of gets along.
Wow.
We hope. It's worked so far.
Oh, yeah. And what's been for you, I suppose, the happiest, the highlight so far of really leading eXXpedition?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the people. Yeah, the people involved, and the change that we're starting to see. I mean, even today, for me to see the ambassadors coming and sharing their stories of everything that they've done since their voyage, and the way it's shifted their path, and that's exactly what I always hoped it would be. 12 years ago, I took a boat across the Pacific, I saw the plastic, and it changed my life. And that's the opportunity I want others to have. Yeah.
And so for people watching this who maybe not have the opportunity yet to join one of your voyages, what is the sort of message for them, or the takeaway for how they can contribute to something which is ultimately about a global community coming together?
Absolutely. I mean, contributing on the plastics issue, there's the very obvious messaging of single-use plastic. And just keeping in mind that you feel like it's one bag or one straw, but that it's all those micro actions that adds up. But really, our message is that we all have a role to play. There's more we can do than just our single-use plastic consumption. And whatever background we have, whether we are an artist, a journalist, a teacher, a policy maker, a packaging designer, there's something that we can all do to contribute to this problem, or whatever problem that you're passionate about. And it's about finding that sweet spot in the middle between your passion and your skill, and turning that into something amazing. And that's what we work with our community to do. But very much it's open to everyone. Everyone has permission to take responsibility and create change. It's no longer up to just our government and our scientists to come up with solutions to these problems. We all need to be doing it.
Yeah. And how do you view some of the other movements that are going on right now? Because it feels like, at least to me, there's a real intersection of environmental issues coming together, but also with social issues, human rights issues, climate strikes just having happened, more to come, certainly in London in the next week or two.
Absolutely.
How do you view that?
It's all so interconnected. And you can't draw a line between any of these issues. Even when you start tracing plastic pollution, as we did today, from ocean to source, as you start working your way up to the source and you start realizing, actually, to solve plastic at the source, for example, on a piece of fishing line, which was one of the exercises today, you're not only thinking about the material of plastic, but you're saying, actually, if I reduce my fish consumption, then I would be reducing the plastic in the ocean. But hang on, if you also reduce your fish consumption, you're also reducing overfishing, which is another problem, sort of separate to plastic. And so everything eventually, I think, all becomes connected. And at the core of that connectedness, what is it at the heart of all of these things we care about at the moment? For me, it comes down to mindset, our values, what we put as something that's more important than others. But if you think of any kind of social issue, climate change, plastic pollution, it's about shifting behaviours and shifting our values. And ultimately, that's how we're going to solve the plastic crisis, but it's also how we're going to tackle these other things as well. So if plastic can be a good kind of gateway to some of these issues because it's so tangible and it's in our lives every day, that's fantastic. But we all need to be working on all sorts of things. So I always say, pick your passion, find your skill, push them together, and you've got your project.
Amazing. Well, listen, so much, wishing you the best of luck for the upcoming eXXpedition. It really looks amazing, and obviously a very exciting 2 years ahead. So congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.